People say families throw love around like confetti. Mine likes grenades. Are you enjoying that trust fund with $500,000? My sister said, smiling into her champagne like she had rehearsed the line in a mirror. I frowned. What trust fund? My son and his wife froze mid-bite. My sister turned to them. So, what did you do with the money? The room at the Harborfield Civic Centre was a churn of rented laughter and sensible shoes. Someone yelled speech, and someone else lifted a phone. I could smell cheap chafing dish pasta and the electric dust of the stage lights I had serviced that morning. I counted outlets because counting calms me. My wife, Lena, poured another drink for the principal of Harborfield High, and the pour went heavy. She did not look at me. Aidan, the personal trainer who had started showing up at our parties since last fall with white teeth and a Mustang key fob he liked to jingle, leaned on a staff door like the hinges owed him money. 500 grand, I said. News to me. Funny, Marta said, lifting her brows, still smiling. Because I heard it was set up a while back. Family thing. Old shipyard money. We do not have old shipyard money, I said. We have a garage full of old shipyard nails and mason jars, if you want those. People laughed because they like a man who can laugh at himself. It proves he is safe. I am not safe when I hear numbers thrown around with my name pinned to them. I am the guy with keys to the breaker room, the guy who knows which wire hum is wrong, and which one means call someone or watch it burn. Evan, my kid, stared at his plate like a confession had crawled out of the chicken marsala. Kayla squeezed his knee under the table. Seriously, I said to Marta. Where did you hear that? Friends talk, she said, and her smile thinned. And your wife entertains. Lena was laughing too loudly with the principal now, head tilted, blonde hair tucked like a magazine cover. If you looked quick, you might think she was happy. If you looked longer, you would see she was auditioning for it. I clinked a fork against my glass, thanked everyone for coming, made 2 jokes about turning 42 and my knees filing for divorce, and cut the cake like a calm man. Inside, something started to walk around. It was not anger. Anger is hot and stupid and loud. This was cooler and patient. It looked like me, and it was measuring exits. As the story unfolds, hit the hype button, like, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive them or walk away? Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. If you have never seen a small town choose its favorite story for the day, you have missed a free fireworks show. The lodge run-in hit Boardwalk Moms by 6 that evening and spread to the HOA forum by 7. I posted nothing and corrected nothing. I put screenshots and inspection photo links in 2 messages to 2 people who take pride in not being fooled. I included no insults. Facts are heavier than profanity. They land better. At 8, someone posted a clip of me at the tasting pulling the gas. A neighbor wrote that she did not know gas had an off switch. 3 people liked the comment. 1 man wrote that the range looked expensive. 2 more asked the kind of questions you ask when you want to be seen asking questions. I said nothing. By 9, someone uploaded a photo of the exit bar with a broom leaning on it. By 9:15, a mum asked if strollers counted against occupancy. At 9:17, I answered that question with a link to the state fire code. The town clerk liked my answer. That was enough fuel. At 9:30, there was a knock on my front door. I stood in the hallway and watched the camera feed. The security guy from the lodge was on my porch, shifting from foot to foot. He had the kind of beard guys grow when they want to read older, but still get ID'd at the convenience store. He rang again. I opened the door with the chain on. I never use the chain. Tonight I used the chain for the symbolism. You made a mistake today, he said. He had a voice like gravel. Lots of people did, I said. I am supposed to tell you to stop, he said. You just did, I said. If you keep going, someone will get hurt, he said. Not by me, I said. He shifted like an actor who forgot his next line. He looked at the camera above my door and did that dumb hand wave people do, as if they can erase a lens with a gesture. He lowered his voice and leaned toward the crack of the door, like he could climb into my hallway by force of breath. "You do not know who you are messing with," he said. "I know exactly who I am messing with," I said. "You are a rented scarecrow standing in a parking lot pretending to be thunder. Smile for the camera." He looked at the red LED and blinked first. He stepped back, put both hands up like a bartender surrendering a last call, and walked down my steps slower than he came up. I watched him go. I saved the clip to a folder labeled in a way that told me I was becoming a man who labels revenge like it is a job. In my bedroom, my wife was asleep on her side of the bed, like a person who trusts a house not to move under her. The nylon satchel was back under the bed, where I hid it, and that bothered me in a way that felt like a wire humming behind plaster. I picked up my grandmother's necklace and set it on the dresser where my wife would see it and understand I can count. The quiet after that was the kind that hums. It wasn't silence so much as a collection of soft mechanical murmurs. The refrigerator cycling, the clock's steady breath, the distant thrum of a late train down by the river. The house has its own way of talking when you stop filling it with words. I stood there listening, hand on the edge of the dresser, thinking about how fast truth travels when people have a taste for spectacle. The lodge story wasn't even the kind of thing that should have mattered. A broken valve, a quick hand, a turned switch. The chef had forgotten to close the line after the morning prep, and I'd noticed the hiss while they were setting up the tasting table. I pulled the shutoff, waved the smoke from the burners, and told them to call the inspector before anyone else used it. That should have been the end. But small towns don't end things. They keep them alive like pets. They feed them, walk them around, show them off. By evening, the story had grown bones and teeth. By 6:30, someone had posted that I stormed the tasting, that I threatened staff, that I cut power. The verbs kept upgrading as the minutes went by. I watched the thread unfold like a slow accident. Nobody wanted correction. They wanted character. I was becoming one. I had learned long ago that silence is a kind of weapon. You let people fill it with their own echoes, and soon they're arguing with themselves. That was why I didn't post, didn't explain, didn't even text the chef to defend me. The truth doesn't need witnesses, only patience. But patience wears thin when your phone keeps blinking. By 8, the messages had changed tone, from gossip to inquiry to warning. You might want to see what they're saying. Just a heads up. Are you okay? The "are you okay" ones are never really about you being okay. They're people saying, I saw it too, and I want to be in the safe zone when this blows over. The clip that surfaced at 8 was from a phone I hadn't noticed. Someone had filmed me leaning over the range, turning the knob, and gesturing toward the staff to back away. No sound, just my body language, sharp and impatient in bad lighting. It looked like I was angry. People always believe anger before they believe caution. When the neighbor commented about not knowing gas had an off switch, I almost laughed. It was such a clean example of ignorance wrapped in confidence. But I didn't laugh. I took a screenshot instead. That's how you build insurance in a town like ours. Documentation, not conversation. By 9, when the photo of the broom against the exit bar appeared, I could feel the collective heartbeat of the forums speeding up. People here love cause and effect. Give them a picture, and they'll write a story that fits around it, no matter how crooked the fit. The broom looked staged. Maybe it was, but it didn't matter. The symbolism was too good. A blocked exit, a hero, a potential tragedy avoided. It had all the beats of a made-for-Facebook movie. When the mom asked about strollers and occupancy, I saw my opening. I sent the link to the state fire code, highlighted the relevant paragraph, and hit send. That's the difference between noise and authority. One arrives with citations. When the town clerk liked my answer, The thread pivoted. A few people started deleting their earlier comments. But deletions don't erase memory. Screenshots outlive remorse. At 9:30, when the knock came, I knew the evening wasn't done with me. The security guy must have drawn the short straw or maybe volunteered, hoping it would earn him points with whoever sent him. The uniform didn't quite fit him. His badge hung too low, his belt too tight. The kind of guy who stands straighter when someone's watching and slouches when no one is. He looked up at the camera before knocking again, and that told me he'd already seen the red light and didn't like it. People think cameras are for protection. They're not. They're for precision. They remember better than you do. When I opened the door, I made sure the chain clicked loud enough for him to hear. Symbolism matters. It tells people what story they're walking into. He started with the line about mistakes, and I let him talk, nodding just enough to keep him from thinking he'd lost his place. His sentences had the rhythm of something rehearsed but not written down, probably fed to him by a manager too cautious to come himself. I imagined that manager sitting in the lodge office, checking the clock, waiting for a message that the visit had been made, that the problem had been handled. But the problem wasn't me. It was the fact that someone thought I was a problem. When the guard said someone would get hurt, his voice softened, like he believed it. Maybe he did. Maybe he'd been told something vague enough to sound true. The guy's unstable. He's threatening people online. He's got a temper. Lies are easiest when they're built from recycled truths. I told him not by me, and that landed heavier than I meant it to. There's a kind of stillness that follows when a person realizes the script isn't working. He glanced at the camera again, waved like a child trying to close a curtain, and muttered that I didn't know who I was messing with. That was the line. Every threat has a moment when it shifts from professional to personal. That was his, and I answered with mine, the scarecrow line, the smile for the camera line. I didn't raise my voice. You don't need to when the words are sharp. He blinked, retreated, and performed that slow, performative walk of a man pretending dignity after losing it. I watched him until he disappeared past the hedge. Then I saved the clip, named it, and realized I'd crossed a small, invisible border inside myself. People say revenge is poison, but they never mention the taste. Metallic, addictive, convincing you that it's medicine. The house was quiet again. Upstairs, my wife's breathing was steady. That gentle rhythm that means she's deep in the kind of sleep only trust provides. The nylon satchel under the bed hummed in my memory like a power line. Inside it were things that didn't belong in a suburban home. Tools that were legal if you knew what you were doing, illegal if you didn't. I had built that kit over months, not for harm, but for readiness. Readiness can look like paranoia from the outside. I knelt, touched the satchel strap, then left it there. I wasn't ready to open it. Some doors shouldn't open twice in one night. The necklace on the dresser caught the lamplight, its small gold beads forming a crooked line like Morse code. It had been my grandmother's, then my mother's, then mine by accident of inheritance and silence. My wife once told me she didn't think I noticed when things went missing. She was wrong. I notice everything. I just wait to see if the missing thing returns on its own. Setting the necklace out wasn't a message of anger. It was accounting. I wanted her to see it in the morning and know that I count not just money or time, but intentions. The night stretched long after that. I walked through the house barefoot, touching walls, checking locks, pretending the motions were practical when really they were rituals. Each switch I flipped, each window I tested, was a way of mapping what still belonged to me. At the window facing the street, I could see the lodge's lights flickering through the trees. The building looked almost innocent from here, a box of warm yellow squares against the dark. But I knew what went on inside. Deals, favors, whispered threats dressed as warnings. The lodge was where the town decided who was respectable. Respectability was the local currency. They'd made their first mistake thinking I wanted to be part of that economy. By 10, The forums had turned inward, people arguing over details, accusing one another of exaggeration, speculation, bias. That's how these things always collapse. They eat their own. I sat in the dark, phone face down, letting it buzz itself tired. The security clip played back smooth. His words were clearer than I'd remembered. "You don't know who you're messing with." I replayed that line twice, not for the threat, but for the uncertainty in his tone. He wasn't warning me. He was repeating something he'd been told, like a password he didn't understand. That made me more curious than afraid. By 11, curiosity had replaced anger. I opened my laptop, logged into the public records portal, and started searching names. The lodge had 3 listed owners, all under a shell corporation that shared an address with a landscaping business 2 towns over. The manager who sent the security guard had once filed for bankruptcy, the kind of quiet failure people forget until it's useful. Threads always lead somewhere if you're patient enough to follow them. Around midnight, I drafted an email to the fire marshal. Polite, detailed, full of attached documentation, screenshots, inspection codes, timestamps, the whole trail. I didn't send it yet. Timing matters. A well-timed truth can do more damage than 1,000 rumors. The house creaked as it cooled. My wife shifted, murmured something in her sleep about the morning, about pancakes. Ordinary dreams. I envied her for that. I used to dream in color. Lately, I dream in sounds. Clicks, locks, footsteps, doors closing. I poured a glass of water and stood by the kitchen window watching the streetlights glaze the asphalt. Every so often, a car rolled by, headlights sweeping across the hedges like search beams. Somewhere a dog barked, then barked again, then stopped. The air outside was damp, heavy with the smell of ocean salt and late autumn rot. This town always smells like something ending. I thought about the guard again, his nervous shifting, his gravel voice. He wasn't evil, just rented. Most threats are. But behind him, someone else had decided I needed to be quiet, and that someone was going to learn that quiet is not my natural state. The next morning would bring messages, apologies, corrections, half-hearted explanations. But that night I learned something truer. Silence can burn longer than outrage. It smolders in other people's minds until they can't tell whether they were right or wrong. By 2 a.m, I was still awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, staring at the necklace on the dresser. The red LED from the camera outside blinked faintly through the curtains, marking time like a pulse. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. That's worse. Anger burns out. Focus builds. I took a notebook from the drawer, the one where I keep notes that matter, and wrote a list of names, not targets, just reference points. People who liked posts, people who commented, people who stayed silent but viewed every story. Silence is its own kind of participation. When I was done, I tore the page out, folded it once, and slid it into the satchel under the bed. The zipper closed with a soft rasp, the kind of sound that seals intent. Outside, the first hint of fog began rolling down from the hills, blurring the lodge lights into halos. The town would wake to it, move through it, talk about something new before noon. But the internet never forgets, and neither do I. I lay down next to my wife, careful not to wake her. She turned toward me in her sleep, reached out an arm, and rested her hand on my shoulder, like a vote of confidence from someone who didn't know the ballot. I closed my eyes. In the dark, the town kept whispering through its wires. Threads refreshed, screens lit, and stories reshaped themselves. Every click was a heartbeat, every post a confession. And somewhere in all that noise, the truth waited, patient, heavier than profanity, waiting to land. Harborfield, Massachusetts is a town built on rust and rumor. We have a marina with gulls that curse like veterans, a mill that grew into a civic center because nobody could afford to tear it down, and 2 bars competing to be the place where your secrets go to stretch their legs. I carry keys for the civic center, which used to be the Harborfield textile works. The bricks are thick, the pipes are older than my father. When it storms, the whole building talks in its sleep. I know how to listen. Aidan blocked my path at the staff door. He smelled like mint gum and ambition. "Good speech," he said. "Love your vibe. Authentic." "Thanks," I said. "You seen Lena?" "She is making magic," he said. He winked. "You are a lucky man." Not what I asked. "Relax, big guy," he said, like we were friends. "It is a party." He moved aside just enough to make it look like he wasn't blocking me. I brushed his shoulder anyway. The door thunked shut behind me with that soft panic sound all backstage doors share. I found Lena near the storage room, handing a glass of wine to Principal Lowell. "Lowell," I said, "enjoying the party?" "It is fantastic," she said. "Lena has been a gem for the booster program. We are lucky to have her." "She has been a gem for a lot of people lately," I said. "Can I borrow my wife for a second?" Lowell smiled the way principals do when students ask to go to the bathroom during an exam. "Of course." Lena walked with me down the hallway. "You are not doing this now," she said under her breath. "Doing what?" "Whatever this is," she said. "Marta being Marta. Ignore her." She said trust fund, I said. 500,000. "I have to check on the dessert table," she said. "Did you tell people there was a trust fund?" She looked at me like I had asked if she believed in ghosts. "It was a joke." "To who?" "To friends," she said, airy as a drape. "You know how people chat. You know how numbers get tossed around. It is aspirational. Everyone does it." "We do not," I said. "Then maybe we should," she said, and the way she said it made something old in me sit up. "I am not aspirational," I said. "I am actual. I fix the actual that breaks when the aspirational throws another gala." "You are angry," she said. "We will talk tomorrow." "We will talk now," I said. "Tomorrow," she said, and was gone down the hall, fast and light. I went back into the main room, smiled for photos, took plates to the trash, hugged my son and Kayla. Evan would not meet my eyes. He said, "Happy birthday, Dad," like he was giving me a receipt. His tone was clean, practiced, polite enough to pass, but empty where the warmth should have been. The kind of tone people use when they're afraid kindness might be mistaken for forgiveness. I felt the words pass between us and vanish, as if the air refused to hold them. The restaurant had the kind of light that makes everyone look better than they are. Soft amber bulbs over reclaimed wood tables, a little shimmer off the wine glasses, the illusion of intimacy. The band in the corner had shifted from jazz to some kind of nostalgic pop, the kind people hum along to even when they don't want to. Waiters circled with trays of empty flutes, smiling too wide, pretending they weren't watching the clock. Every few minutes someone would touch my arm, say something like, "Can you believe 50?" or "You don't look a day over 35, and I would laugh like the man they thought I was supposed to be. I saw Lena across the room near the bar, laughing with the owner. She had that perfect public laugh, the one that floats just above the music, inviting everyone nearby to join in. I caught the faint reflection of her face in the mirrored shelves behind the bottles, the quick lift of her eyebrows, the practiced glance away. She looked like someone performing joy. She's always been good at that. When the cake came out, I made a wish that wasn't a wish, just a sentence I didn't say out loud. The candles smoked in the draft from the open door. The smoke rose in thin, uncertain threads before disappearing. Evan clapped half a second too late, as if the applause was something he had to remind himself to do. Kayla tried to smooth the silence with a joke about old men and sugar. She meant well. She always means well. When I finally slid out a side exit for air, the harbor wind cleaned my head. The cold had teeth tonight, sharp enough to remind me I was still here, still made of something that could feel. The sound of the waves carried up from the docks, a low rhythm that had more honesty than the party inside. Down the street, the string of lights from the marina stretched out like a trail of tired stars. I could smell salt, diesel, fried fish, All the small proofs that life was still moving even if I wanted it to pause. The Mustang sat under a streetlight like a show dog. Someone had parked too close on the passenger side, so the reflection of the other car warped across its silver flank like a bruise. I noticed the tires were slick with vanity polish, that bright artificial shine that makes rubber look wet. Not mine. Mine are slick with salt. Mine have the dull finish of something that earns its scars honestly. Whoever detailed the car had done it for appearance, not endurance. That's always the difference between show and survival. A gift bag waited on a folding chair by the back door. The tissue paper inside was too crisp, arranged like it had been handled with gloves. I looked around, no one in sight, just the sound of the band leaking through the door, a muffled bass line, and the clink of glasses. The card was taped to the handle. Inside was a membership voucher to Aiden's gym. A ribbon looped through the plastic card, signed, "We take care of our own." A. The handwriting was wide and confident, the kind of script that assumes ownership. Aiden had always been that kind of man. Big laugh, tighter smile. A gym owner, with the physique of a man who sells the idea of control. I had met him twice, once when Lena dragged me to some charity event he hosted, and once when I stopped by to pick her up after a yoga class that went overtime. Both times he'd shaken my hand too long, looked me in the eye too directly, the kind of look that says, "I know something you don't." I held the voucher under the streetlight, watched the ribbon flutter in the wind like a loose nerve. The words, "We take care of our own," could mean anything. Encouragement, threat, invitation. It was the kind of sentence that changes color depending on who says it. My phone buzzed. Doorbell cam alert. The little vibration in my palm felt louder than the band inside. I opened the app. The video showed Lena arriving home much earlier than she should have, and then leaving again 15 minutes later in a different coat. The feed timestamp blinked steady and merciless. The way she moved was efficient. No hesitation, no pause between steps. She entered with her head down, keys ready, the way you do when you've rehearsed the motion. Then 15 minutes later, the door opened again. She had changed into the long, dark coat, the one she wears when she doesn't want to be recognized from far away. I checked the time. The band was on their second set. My wife was changing coats like she was changing scenes. The cool thing inside me put on its jacket. It wasn't anger, not yet. Anger is hot, unplanned. This was something colder, a temperature made for clarity. I stood there, phone still in hand, feeling the space between the image on the screen and the air around me. The distance between knowing and proving is smaller than most people think. The parking lot behind the restaurant was empty except for my car and a delivery van. The driver sat inside, scrolling through his phone, the blue glow of the screen lighting his face like a confession booth. I wondered what his story was tonight. Everyone in this town is always between something, between jobs, between marriages, between excuses. I walked toward the harbor, just to move, to keep my hands from closing into fists. The boardwalk planks groaned underfoot, damp from the evening tide. The smell of tar and salt mixed with the faint sweetness of fried dough from the stand that stayed open year-round. I could see the reflection of the restaurant's lights trembling in the water. Every tremor looked like hesitation. A gull screamed somewhere above, cutting through the music from inside. For a moment, I wished it would rain. Rain makes everything honest. It washes down the layers of pretense, leaves only what clings hard enough to survive. I thought about Evan again, about the way he wouldn't meet my eyes. He had his mother's ability to vanish while standing still. When he was little, he'd hide behind the couch and stay silent for hours, testing how long it would take before someone noticed. Maybe he learned that from her too. Some habits start as games and end as defense mechanisms. Kayla had tried to bridge the gap at dinner, asking about work, about the house, about anything that might sound neutral. She'd laughed too easily, filling silence like a professional mediator. The wind pushed harder, carrying the echo of a foghorn from farther out. I checked my phone again. The clip replayed automatically. The door opening, Lena stepping out, her hair tucked under the coat collar, her hand tightening the strap of her bag. The camera light caught the curve of her face just long enough to show determination, not guilt. She wasn't sneaking. She was choosing. That was worse. Back when we bought the house, she said she loved how narrow it was. It forces us to stay close, she joked. I didn't realize then how easy it is to be close and still unreachable. The walls in that place carry sound in strange ways. You can hear footsteps from the attic, but not words from the kitchen. The house has its own version of silence, one that hides truth instead of protecting it. I started walking back toward the side door. Through the glass, I could see the room had grown louder, looser. The birthday banner had slipped on one end. Someone was doing a toast to many more years of good fortune. I smiled at the irony. I could have gone back in, joined the performance, said thank you, hugged Aiden if he was still there. But I stayed outside. I leaned against the cold metal railing and looked at the sea. The surface caught the streetlight in broken patterns, silver one moment, black the next. That's what truth looks like when you're too close to it. Always shifting, never flat. A couple walked past me laughing, arms around each other. They didn't notice me. That was fine. People rarely do until you give them a reason. The phone buzzed again. Another alert. Same camera. This time the footage showed nothing but the porch, the light flickering. Then a car headlight swept across the frame, and for half a second I saw Lena's shadow before it vanished into the dark. The timestamp said she was gone now. I put the phone away. Breathing felt mechanical. I looked down at the voucher again. The ribbon had loosened in the wind, fluttering against my wrist. We take care of our own. The sentence looped in my mind until it lost grammar and turned into rhythm. We take care, our own. Each word cutting smaller than the last. Inside, someone opened the back door, a burst of laughter spilling out like steam. A voice called my name, Kayla. I turned, smiled automatically, waved. She was holding a slice of cake wrapped in a napkin, her version of kindness. I told her I'd be right in. She believed me. When the door closed again, I sat on the chair beside the gift bag. The metal was cold through my shirt. I thought about the first time Lena and I came to this restaurant. It was years ago, before the house, before Evan's silence. She'd ordered oysters, and I'd pretended to like them. She laughed when I couldn't swallow the third one. You always try to be polite about things that make you sick, she'd said. I didn't understand then how much truth was hiding in that sentence. Now, the wind from the harbor brought the smell of those same oysters, carried from the kitchen vents. The scent hit me like memory, sharp and unwelcome. I stayed there until the music shifted again, softer now, the kind of song they play when it's time to end the night. The waiters started stacking chairs. The laughter thinned. I stood, took one last look at the glowing windows, and walked toward the car. The driver of the delivery van had left. The parking lot was a mirror of oil and rain that hadn't fallen yet. I unlocked the Mustang, tossed the voucher onto the passenger seat, and sat there listening to the engine idle. The hum steadied me. Machines are honest. They don't pretend. On the drive home, the streets were mostly empty. Porch lights blinked like signals from another world. I passed the gym, Aiden's place. Even at midnight, the windows glowed blue, silhouettes moving inside, discipline on display. He had built a shrine to self-improvement, and people paid to kneel. I slowed the car, but didn't stop. I didn't need to. The mind fills in what the eyes can't see. When I reached the house, the porch light was still on, the same one from the video. I stood in the driveway for a while, watching the beam cut through the mist. The doorbell cam caught me, of course. It always does. I looked straight into it this time, gave it the same kind of smile I'd given all night, the one that fits any occasion. Inside, the house was too quiet. I walked through each room, turning on lights, touching objects, as if to confirm they still belonged to me. The couch, the photos, the faint perfume still hanging in the hallway. In the bedroom, her vanity light was on. The dark coat was gone. The lighter one hung in its place. On the dresser, next to her jewelry box, was a note. Just one word. Later. I folded it once and set it under the membership voucher. Then I sat on the edge of the bed, shoes still on, jacket still zipped. The air smelled of lavender and something else, metal maybe, or salt from my hands. Outside, the harbour wind moved through the narrow streets, shaking the gutters, humming against the glass. I listened to it until the sound stopped meaning anything, until it became part of me. The cool thing inside me zipped its jacket to the throat and waited for the next alert. The next morning, I went to work early because nobody notices a maintenance man at dawn. I pulled up the Civic Centre keycard logs because I am the guy who resets them when they glitch. Lena's card showed late nights twice a week for the last 2 months. The times matched Aiden's small group classes at his boutique gym 3 blocks away. I drank coffee that tasted like cardboard and thought about what you can prove without breaking a law. You can prove where a person was when their card beeped a lock. You can prove where a car parked if the harbour cam caught it. You can prove what someone comped on a receipt. You can prove the sound of a lie because it leaves a dent in the air. I texted Ray, my foreman. He has been union since his hair was dark. He knows when to talk and when to listen. Need you to cover the South Hall for an hour, I wrote. All good, he wrote back. You okay? Just tightening something. At lunch, I walked to the marina in a light rain. A nor'easter was rumoured for next week. The gulls were already practising insults. Across from Slip 12 is a boathouse with a frosted window. When the light is on inside, you can see shapes. When lightning hits, you can see a lot. The Mustang rolled up and nosed into a staff spot it was not entitled to. Aiden got out with a gym bag and the walk of a man who thinks the pavement is lucky to feel his shoes. 10 minutes later, Lena came from the other direction, hood up, head down. They disappeared into the boathouse. I did not bust in. I know doors. I know when one wants to be opened and when one wants to teach you patience. I walked around the back, found the breaker box because I put the labels on it last year, and flipped the main off. The boathouse went dark. Aiden swore. I walked inside with my phone light. You two okay? I said, like a helpful neighbour. Aiden squared up, which was a mistake. I have picked up industrial dehumidifiers alone. I body-checked him into a stack of crab pots and slapped him open-handed across the face when he lunged again. His bag fell. Lena gasped. Nate, stop. I will when I know what it is I am stopping, I said. What trust fund? Aiden, rubbing his cheek, said, She told me you had one. She did? I said. Everyone knows, he said. Not everyone, I said. I am everyone, and I just found out. Lena said nothing. Why would you tell him that? I asked her. It does not matter, she said. It matters to me, I said. Because that number has been working the room like a coat check. Because my son did not look at me last night. Because now I am here. And I am not a man who comes to places like this without good reason. Silence, and the sound of tide nudging the pilings like a dog that wants in. I am going to walk out, I said. You are going to stay. You are going to think. Later we will talk like people. But if you lie again, you will not like the result. Was that a threat? Aiden said, touching his jaw. It was a schedule, I said, and I turned the breaker back on before I left. I slept on the floor of Evan's old room that night. The bed smelled like body spray and indecision. In the morning, I moved a duffel to a spare office at the Civic Centre and told Ray I was working a lot of nights on the South Boiler and to log my hours exactly. I started to document, not to post, not to brag, to build an honest record. Doorbell cam timestamps, keycard logs that I am authorized to view, public harbour cam stills. Officer Carver could forward to me because they are public record If you ask the right way and say, "You are checking a camera angle because of vandalism by Slip 12 last month." I was checking camera angles. The vandalism was that kiss. Carver sent stills from 2 weeks back. In one, Lena and Aidan are mid-argument. She has her finger in his face. He looks small in that second, like a balloon when the air goes out. "Do not make me write you up," Carver told me at the pier later. "I did not give you anything you could not get by filing a form." "You did not," I said. "We are good." "Are you?" he said. "I am getting there," I said. The next thing I did was map Lena's social arteries. There was Principal Lowell and the Booster Club, which is a church without religion. There was Jules's cocktail bar, which is where people put on faces to try them out. There was Aidan's gym, which is church with mirrors. Lena had been telling people that money would not be a problem, and she had floated that number. 500,000. You can spend a promise faster than cash. She had bought favors, attention, doors held and cheeks turned. I was going to return those purchases. If you release all your evidence at once, people call it an attack. If you release a steady drip, people call it gossip. Gossip builds its own scaffolding in a town like ours. I sent 3 screenshots anonymously to Jules. One was a comp receipt from Aidan's gym to Lena H. for unlimited sessions, signed on his end, comp to build community. One was a time-stamped photo of the Mustang in a staff spot with a ticket I had written last month. The third was a public harbor, still of 2 silhouettes in a doorway arguing. No kissing, no porn, just shapes in a place they had no reason to be. Jules posted about community partners and boundaries without names. People do not need names. They love connect the dots. I told Principal Lowell that the Civic Center could not donate after-hours maintenance to the Booster Gala this year unless all vendors followed facility policy on keycard usage and rental access. Meaning, my wife could not pretend the mill was her personal playground. Lowell emailed Lena, "We should pause your volunteer leadership until your home life settles." It was not kind, but it was clean. I printed the email and folded it into my pocket like a charm. Aidan came to the Civic Center to pick up equipment for a charity boot camp. He had arranged it through Lena because of course he had. He wanted the loading bay temporarily. He got me instead. I met him by the bay, in a yellow vest, with my name stitched on it, and my toolbox like a lunch pail. I have a forklift license and a mood. "Need help?" I said. "I got it," he said, waving me off. "Where is Lena?" "Busy," I said. "Where is your car?" He pointed like he was showing off a dog. The Mustang gleamed under the bay light. My reflection in the door looked tired and necessary. I hit the switch. The bay lights boomed to full. I fired the forklift. The forks lifted a pallet stacked with sandbags we use for stage weights. I drove it to within an inch of his front bumper and let the wine hang there like a mosquito. "What are you doing?" he said, trying for brave. "Teaching," I said. "Rep range is 1. Lesson is simple. You park where you do not belong. Something heavy gets close. Makes you shake. Next time you think." "You cannot threaten my car," he said. "I did not touch your car," I said. "No damage, not my style." It would grind every time he opened it and leave sticky crystals around the rim so his hand came away dirty in front of clients. Then I sprayed 2 lines of removable industrial dye along the undercarriage. When he drove, rainbow streaks would trail behind him like a parade he did not want. He swallowed. "You cannot do that." "I just did," I said. "Consider it an art installation. Temporary. Washes off. But for a while, every place you go will remember you. Every time you park, you will mark your territory." He lunged. I stepped aside and let gravity take a small bite. He hit the concrete on his hands and knees. "Tell Lena she's losing her place at the big table," I said. "Tell her I am flipping the table to check the screws. That is my job." I walked away before my hands decided to do something stupid. Evan came by my office with Kayla. They looked like kids caught drawing on a wall. Mom said you would be fine either way, Evan said, staring at the map of the steam lines on my whiteboard. She said you had savings somewhere, that you just do not like to talk about it. I have savings in the form of a sump pump that works and tires that are not bald, I said. I have tools I bought one at a time when they were on sale. I have loyalty with the guys who call me when the south boiler coughs at midnight because I show up. That is what I have. Money in a jar is not a plan. It is a myth. We did not take anything, Kayla said, quick. We would never. We just thought, when she said, you thought I was a man who keeps a secret $500,000 in his sock drawer, I said. Do I look like a sock drawer magician? No, Evan said, and his mouth twisted. You look like you, Dad. I am sorry. Then pay attention to who tells you I am something else, I said, because they need that version for themselves. The booster banquet is where Harborfield pretends to be a larger town. We rent tall plants and uplights. We project slides of kids hugging trophies. We hand out tax write-offs dressed like applause. The gym smells like catering trays and pride. Every year, the same rented linens, the same buffet steam, the same cluster of dads adjusting their ties while pretending to care about raffle baskets. The same moms in black dresses that whisper against the floor like the sound of pages turning. It's tradition dressed as ambition. Lena was supposed to MC. She wore black and a face that could sell candles online. Her hair was pulled back tight, the kind of tight that signals control, or the need to simulate it. She had a voice that people trust without knowing why, a tone made for microphones and donation drives. I was on lights and sound because I am on lights and sound even when I ask not to be. Every year they tell me it's temporary, just one more event, just this once, just until someone else learns the system. But the system is old, unpredictable, and I am the only one who knows its moods. It's easier for them to use me than replace me. 15 minutes in, the handheld mic began to hiss. Then it died like a bored fish. I had checked it. I had triple-checked it. Wireless mics are moody. They sense weakness. They pick their moments like divas. The hiss grew, then flattened into silence, that kind of silence that hangs in the air with teeth. The audience rustled. Someone coughed. Lena's practiced smile held for one beat too long, and I could see the thought flicker behind her eyes. Why me? Why now? Why him? I took the backup from the charger. It worked for a minute and then cut to half power, just enough to mock me. Lena tried to keep smiling. The room leaned in to hear. Nobody likes leaning for long. The tables near the back began to whisper, not words, just movement. Whispering is contagious. You can feel it spread like static. Slideshow, she said, hand signal to the booth. She did not look at me. Her palm lifted slightly, a subtle command that said, fix this without making me part of it. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. I knew the cue by heart. The file on the laptop said, Banquet Final. The folder next to it said, Harbor Cams Test. The laptop had a Bluetooth connection to her phone because earlier she had been sending herself notes. Her phone, when it is too close to the board, sometimes mirrors pop-ups because that is what phones do when they are bored and want attention. I had warned her about that before, more than once. Keep the phone off Bluetooth, I'd said. It's a chatty device. She laughed at the time, thought I was being dramatic. The slideshow did not pull the wrong folder. That would be cruel. It pulled the right one, but I had placed the harbor stills inside in the order of the evening, after the honor roll kids, and before the silent auction sponsors. They slipped in smooth, like they belonged. There they were for 3 seconds each. A silhouette in a doorway, a Mustang in a staff spot, Lena and Aiden arguing under a dock light. No explicit content, no crime, just context. The first image landed quiet. People thought it was artistic, a filler shot. The second drew a soft murmur, a few tilted heads. By the third, the room understood it wasn't stock footage. Recognition moved through them like a shiver. Aiden's name passed from table to table in low breath. Lena's face, up on the stage, froze halfway through a smile. The principal's hands tightened around his note cards. A murmur rose, thin at first, then thick. The principal's smile died like a light with a bad ballast. He stepped toward the stage, like a man approaching an unexploded device. Lena's voice caught on the mic's static, and the feedback squeal made a few people flinch. The screen went black, then jumped back to the sponsor slide like nothing had happened, but the damage was already airborne. A text flashed on the screen from Jules because Bluetooth is a dog and sometimes runs to the wrong owner. The message read, "Low-end chatter says you are toxic now. I cannot host you here for a while. Sorry." The message was plain white on grey, the kind of simple cruelty technology excels at. It stayed there for a full 5 seconds, long enough for phones to rise, for cameras to click. Lena froze. She saw me in the booth. Our eyes met across the crowd. I kept my face like a blank wall. I didn't move. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. The silence between us carried more electricity than the soundboard ever could. Someone in the audience tried to clap, to reset the mood, but it came out awkward, a single echo in a gym full of people who suddenly remembered their own secrets. The band started tuning quietly in the corner, pretending not to notice. The caterers stayed still behind the buffet line, heads slightly turned like they were watching a slow-motion accident. The principal whispered something to Lena. She nodded without hearing. Her other hand trembled slightly, just enough that I could see it even from the booth. When the next speaker tried to step forward, she let him take the mic, backed away, and left the stage through the side curtain like a magician retreating from her own trick. I stayed in the booth until the end. That's the rule. Tech leaves last. You shut down the system, unplug what you brought, erase your fingerprints from the switches. When the lights dimmed, I walked the perimeter, pulling cords, coiling cables, collecting adapters. People avoided my eyes the way they avoid mirrors after a bad haircut. Afterward, she cornered me behind the curtains. The room beyond still buzzed with half-whispered theories. "You are burning your own house down," she said. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Her tone was controlled, deliberate, the kind of tone people use when they're trying not to show panic. "It was not my house," I said. "It was your stage. I am just taking down the lights. We are returning the rental plants." Her eyes were glassy but dry. She had practiced this face before, public devastation without collapse. She looked like someone holding a fragile vase she didn't realize was already cracked. "You think this makes you righteous?" she asked. "No," I said. "It makes me accurate." "You will regret this," she said. "I know how to live with regret," I said. "You do not. It is going to be educational." For a moment she stood there, caught between fury and disbelief. Then she looked past me, toward the half-packed equipment, as if she could undo it all by sheer force of will. Behind her, the stage crew pretended not to hear. The tall plants we'd rented swayed slightly in the draft from the gym doors, the illusion of grandeur already sagging. When she finally walked away, her heels clicked a rhythm that sounded like punctuation. Each step a period, each pause an unfinished thought. I watched her go until she reached the lobby, where the light turned her into silhouette again, the same shape from the harbor still. I stayed another hour breaking down cables. The custodians moved around me quietly, sweeping confetti, folding chairs, erasing evidence of celebration. One of them nodded to me, half sympathy, half caution. Small towns have long memories. Harborfield keeps its scandals like seashells, collected, polished, displayed when convenient. When I wheeled the last cart of gear out to the truck, the night air hit cold and sharp. The parking lot was half empty, puddles reflecting the gym's fluorescent exit lights. The Mustang was there again, parked under a street lamp, its shine dulled by dust. Someone had scratched a faint line along the door. Accidental or deliberate, I couldn't tell. I stared at it longer than I should have, then climbed into my own car and sat there listening to the tick of cooling metal. Inside the cab, the Bluetooth connected automatically. A notification blinked from Lena's account. Her phone still linked from earlier. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew the shape of the messages. Anger first, then justification, then silence. As I drove home, Harborfield looked smaller than usual. Streetlights flickered unevenly. Storefronts were closed. The mannequins behind glass dressed in optimism for a town that never quite grows. I passed the lodge, the gym, the diner, each one carrying its own ghosts. At a stoplight, I looked at my reflection in the window. I looked calm. That surprised me. You expect relief after a storm, but what you get is vacancy, the kind that hums. I thought about Lena's words, burning my own house down, and realized she was right in one way. I had lit the match, but sometimes the structure you live in isn't shelter, it's containment. Fire is how you see what's left, that's real. When I reached home, the porch light was still on. The doorbell cam blinked red, loyal and unblinking. I looked straight into it, the same way I had that night months ago, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't mind being recorded. The camera remembers, and so do I. I served Lena with a separation notice the next afternoon at our kitchen table. No drama. Basic form. I had a list stapled to it of what I would be taking if this moved forward. My tools, my truck, the dog if she agreed, because he sleeps by my boots and gets upset when people cry. I did not cheat to hurt you, she said. I wanted out of small. You picked a path that stepped on my face, I said. You told people I would not mind because I had a cushion. I do not. I mind. I told a story, she said. Everyone tells stories. Then hear this one, I said, and slid the paper to her. It ends with you not being in my house. She looked at the line where she could sign to acknowledge receipt. She did not pick up the pen. Think about it, I said, but do not think long. Aiden's gym announced that a silent partner was withdrawing on social media that night. The comments were not kind. Someone posted a video of rainbow dye dripping from a car like mascara in rain. The internet loves a prop. Ray came by my office. You are running hot, he said. I am documenting everything, I said. I am staying inside the rules. Stay inside the guardrail too, he said. HR does not love employees who run personal wars in the loading bay. I am not at war, I said. I am cleaning. Same mess either way, he said, and clapped my shoulder. Officer Carver found me down by the marina and stretched his back against the rail. You are a good guy, he said. Do not make me explain to the chief why I'm letting you be a good guy in public. I'm doing nothing illegal, I said. Good, he said. Keep it that way. Marta told me over coffee that she had said the trust fund line at the party because she suspected the affair. She had heard Lena float that number to Jules in a back booth, and she wanted to see who froze. You are welcome, she said. I am not thanking you, I said. You will, she said. You needed a fuse. Aiden kept a loft above the gym because of course he did. I arrived at noon on a day when classes turned over and clients were coming and going in designer leggings like a school of wealthy fish. I slid half a dozen printed screenshots of mean Instagram comments under his door. Then I used a heavy zip tie around the outside handle and tugged it so it bit. Not locked from the inside, not trapped forever, just an urgent minute where the door would not budge and his heartbeat might. I pulled the fire alarm test switch in the hall, the one that chirps and resets without calling trucks, and watched panic run around his floor like a mouse. I snipped the zip tie after 60 seconds, slid it into my pocket, and leaned close to the door gap. This is what panic feels like, I said. We are not done. From the stairwell, I heard him say to someone, She promised me capital. She said he would never miss it. The words left his mouth like receipts. I made 2 calls. One to Principal Lowell to say the Civic Center would not be donating volunteer maintenance hours to any program that used private keys off the books. Another to the Civic Center scheduler to inform her, in writing, that any event Lena touched would require a third-party facility manager to sign off and remain on site. Costly, annoying, clean. Lowell folded because Lowell folds when a valve squeals. She sent a bland email that read like a scolding. Lena lost the committee power she had collected like pins. I checked the county website for property documents. Aiden's lease addendum was public. It showed late fees that added up like a staircase. Ambition is expensive when the math is bad. I printed the lease. Paper makes things real. The forecast said a nor'easter would knock Harborfield around by Friday night. The marina posted advisories. Dock lines needed checking. Boats needed extra spring lines. People who know water do not play chicken with it. I volunteered to help because I already help. It is how I breathe. I texted Aiden from a burner app. Straight text. No threats, no slang. Meet me at the boathouse Friday 8 p.m. Lena is coming to get her grandmother's ring back. He replied in less than a minute. Where? I sent the location. I sat on a coil of rope and watched the sky think about becoming something else. The rain on Friday did not fall. It hurled. Wind rolled off the harbor with the weight of a truck. The boathouse windows rattled in their frames. The catwalk slicked over with a skin that begged you to fall. I checked lines, tightened cleats, braced the door with a wedge. I carried a small maul, the kind we use to persuade hardware that forgot its purpose. Aiden arrived first, hood up, shoulders squared to look big. The dye had faded from his undercarriage, but his eyes still carried the color of embarrassment. You bring the ring, he said. It is not your ring, I said. It belongs to Lena's grandmother, which means it belongs to Lena until she decides otherwise. But yes, it is here. Lena came a minute later, hair plastered, eyes hard. She shut the boathouse door behind her, and the wind still got in, because wind always does. Give me the ring, she said. I held it up. It was simple, worn at the edges in a way that says a life has touched it many times. Here you go, I said, and then I flicked it underhand and watched it skitter across the wet boards, clink against the iron grate in the floor, and stop right on the lip. It did not fall through. It sat there, impossible to grab without kneeling. Lena made a sound low in her throat. Why do this? Aiden said. So you both remember that things can almost be lost, I said. Almost is worse. It is a sound that keeps you awake. I set the maul's face on a deck cleat and brought it down once, hard. The ring of metal on metal filled the room. Lena flinched. Aiden took a step back. You are not scaring me, Aiden said. I am not trying to, I said. I am trying to tune you. You are a man who responds only to noise. Here it is. Stop, Lena said. This is insane. What is insane is selling a story about me to buy a life you could not afford, I said. What is insane is thinking I would stay the man you could spend. Here is the new math. Aiden, you are going to walk away from Lena tonight. Lena, you are going to live with the echo of that cleat. When you tell people it was me who ruined you, tell them you ruined you and I just turned on the lights. You cannot make me leave her, Aiden said. I cannot, I said. But the weather can. Your car can. Your lease can. Your clients can. I just arranged the timing. He swore. He bent for the ring, slipped, caught himself on the grate, and swore again. Lena knelt and pinched the ring with careful fingers and stood, trembling. I handed Lena a waterproof folder. Inside were the separation terms again, itemized, calm, no alimony, no grabbing, no theatre. What is mine is mine. What is hers is hers. The dog, if she agrees. The dog loves me more. It is not a contest. It is a fact. There was also a photocopy of Aiden's lease addendum. He stared at it like it had insulted his ancestors. Where did you get this? He said. Public record, I said. You can ask at the county office. They are helpful if you bring muffins. You are a psycho, he said. No, I said, I am organized. Those are different. I tossed him a set of keys. He caught them on reflex. He looked down and realized they were his. "Your Mustang," I said. "It is out front. Tires are off. They are stacked neatly by a dock box. The nuts are in a zip bag in your cup holder. You are welcome. You will need someone to help put them back on. That someone is not me." "You cannot strand me in a storm," he said. "You are not stranded," I said. "You have hands and a phone and a mouth. Use them in a new order. Ask nicely. Learn, please. It is a good word. It opens things." Aidan ran for the door and jerked it open, and the wind almost took it out of his hand. He was gone into rain and noise. Lena stayed, ring clenched. "What do you want from me?" she said. "Nothing," I said. "That is the point. I am done being your plan B, your lie, your cushion. You will not go to prison. You will go to brunch without the invites you built on my name. That is worse for you." "You will be alone," she said. "I am alone now," I said. She looked like she might throw the ring into the harbor and let the water decide. She did not. She slammed past me and into the storm. Sirens glowed through the slats. Harbor patrol. Officer Carver came in a minute later, rain track on his jacket. He clocked the scene the way good cops do. No immediate judgment, a quick triage. "Everyone okay?" he said. "Everyone is learning," I said. "Do not make me write it down," he said. "I am not making you do anything," I said. He nodded once and left to yell at someone about lines on slip 14. Marta met me at Jules's bar an hour later. The power flickered and finally gave up. The room went candlelit and mean. She put a hand on my cheek and I let her, because you do not fight the things you will miss when they are gone. "I never thought there was a trust fund," she said. "I knew she had floated that number. I used it because it sticks. I wanted to see if your kid flinched. He did. I wanted you to look. You looked." "You set me up," I said. "I set you free," she said. "You would have sanded yourself down for another year, 2, 10. Now you are sharp again." "Sharp cuts," I said. "Then cut clean," she said. I thought about Evan and Kayla and the way they had believed in a version of me they had been sold. I would forgive them because they were young and because forgiveness is not the same as forgetting. I would not forgive Lena. I called Jules. She answered on the second ring, bar noise like rain. "I can get your generator going," I said. "In exchange, I want the mic for 5 minutes." "I do not do speeches," she said. "Not a speech," I said. "A tune-up." The blackout snapped the bar into a cave. People huddled under the talk like dogs under beds. I rolled the portable generator from the alley because I knew where Jules kept it. Everyone knows where the Civic Center keeps its generators. I pulled the starter twice. The machine coughed and caught. The bar lights hummed to half-life. The POS beeps began to stack like birds. 5 minutes, Jules said, handing me a wired mic like it might bite. I stood in the doorway because I enjoy exits. The rain pushed a curtain of water across the street. Out there, the Mustang rolled on spare donut tires because that is what he could find. When he hit the puddle, a wave sloshed the tables outside and soaked a row of booster parents who had come for wine and gossip and got science instead. "Hi," I said into the mic. "I am Nate. I fix things in this town. You know me. I am the guy who replaces your exit signs and tells you not to plug a coffee urn into a lighting circuit because you will blow the breaker during the raffle." A few laughs. We love our maintenance guys until they tell us no. Then we remember we love them later. "I want to say something about stories," I said. "We like to tell them. We like to spend them. A good story buys you friends. A better story buys you status. The best story buys you a night where you can pretend the ocean will not do what the ocean does. But stories are not cash. They bounce. And when they bounce, everything you bought with them gets returned." The room went quiet the way rooms do right before a fight or a confession. "I am not naming anyone," I said. "If the shoe fits, it probably cost more than I make in a month. Wear it. Walk carefully." Outside, the Mustang coughed and died in ankle-deep water, rainbow residue still clinging to its seams like a punchline that refuses to leave the stage. Aidan climbed out and got heckled by the kind of people who used to clap for him. He did not look at me. He looked at nothing, which is the right direction when you are lost. I looked at Lena. She was at a high top under a candle. Her eyes were dry and furious. She thought if she stared hard enough, she could turn me back into the man she spent. I gave her a small nod that said, "I see you and we are finished speaking." The generator hiccuped and then the town light slammed back at full power as the main grid woke up. The bar erupted in 100 new conversations, all of them about the same thing. I set the mic on the bar and walked to the door. Jules caught my sleeve. "That was mean," she said, but she sounded like a woman who had seen a necessary surgery. "It was accurate," I said. "Accurate and mean are cousins," she said. "Family resemblance," I said. I stepped into the doorway and let the wet air hit my face. The harbor smelled like iron and second chances people will not take. I buttoned my jacket because I am not a man who waits for warmth to arrive. I bring it or I go without. Behind me, voices rose. Laughter, shock, questions, a chair scuffing, a glass set too hard. In front of me, the street shined like a new floor. Aidan yelled for a jack. Someone tossed him one from a trunk without getting out, like charity with a string. He said, "Please." Good. I thought of the ring balanced on the grate and the way Lena had kneeled for it. Almost lost is a lesson you do not forget. I walked down the steps and into the rain and did not look back because the scene was over and the lights were up and there was nothing useful to see.